changing my voice. So this is part 3. I left off talking about how people must beware of the fact that racist whites, Jews, and LGBT people are in the governing class, and they try to control martial arts systems for the purpose of social engineering with an emphasis on controlling who dates who, and they do immature stuff like changing the sound of my voice. Okay, that is some bitch-ass shit. The fact of the matter is, there's a critical mass of people in fraternities and groups like them. The churches are like them these days. They basically always were. The New Age groups, atheist groups, they're these weirdos who quite often drive by and put their nose up. And they got gang members helping them out, and their families overlap, and they try to make sure that the people in the gangs who are looked up to more are people who are related to these people in frats. Okay, so that leads up to point J. One must never fight any wars for any nation on the earth, as they are not justifiable. They all revealed their low spirit, weak heart, little worth, etc., when they chose to play stupid and persecute me as a planet. Rallying to me is more important than the survival of any group or even the whole human race. Okay, one must organize their thoughts and move masterfully, and they must always be ready to die on the drop of a hat. Now keep in mind that it doesn't matter what shape I'm in, because I'm the gate. I've explained this many times. It wouldn't matter if I'm in a coma, I'm still the rally point, and no one is a valid successor. They've all proven themselves to be unworthy. So when you look at this situation, right, I come to Morgan Hill a lot. I go to the same spot I usually go to. There's gang members who are told to drive by and to speak in code to me. For example, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I don't think that there's any logical reason to cover this up. And they've been very, the people tell them what to do have been very disrespectful to me. It's hard to say what they tell them, but quite often they come around in a very bitter spirit. Maybe they're just anticipating adversity, I don't know. But oftentimes they'll put their head to the left in a very obvious manner if they're saying don't go somewhere, or they're saying no, or something like this. And to the right if they're saying do that, or they're saying yes. Okay? And it's not just the gang members, right? It's a bunch of people. And recently, after maybe the Marissa video, maybe it was the Esparto fireworks where I compared that one guy to a jackal. Some other gang members that looked like jackals came around, and one of them said something to the effect of, if I do that again, that they'll kill me. And they said, we know you have a weapon, what have you. And again, I do not carry any illegal weapons on me. I'm not afraid to die. Okay, I made that known. I don't travel with a gun, what have you. I'm not afraid to be shot dead. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid in the slightest. There are many religious fanatics that are out to get me. They're doing a ritual on me to scream me out. Some people trying to drive me to suicide. I'm not afraid to die. I have a bumper sticker in my car right now. Because there's too many bumper stickers on my vehicle, I didn't put it up there, but it says a short righteous life is greater than a long wicked life. In fact, I think I'll put the picture there if I remember at the end. My car's sort of a mess, but I think I'm going to take the picture anyway. I have the bumper stickers on my car that says that the sabotage top martial arts ever possible is the ideal man, right? The sabotage top martial arts. No one has ever presented a counter argument because they know it's stupid to. Well, they're going to say some frat face guy, some guy in Skull and Bones going 3, 2, 2, 3, 2. What can they say? What, Einstein making a funny face? Who? What do they think is the ideal person? What, Donald Trump? They got nothing, right? They have nothing close. Some mafia guy. It's just a businessman and crook. What are we talking about here? The Pope? The Pope looks like a cartoon character. You people got to keep it real. You never keep it real. You never keep it real. You got to keep it real. I'll go one step further because they keep hitting me with this white supremacy bullshit. Okay, there's a reason why black and brown people used to get along, and some places they still do. Okay, they're called black and brown people. Now think about that. A lot of Hispanic people have white skin. In fact, I go as far as say most Hispanic people in America have white skin. So why were they called black and brown? It's not because Americans think that white people are superior. I'll tell you that. Okay, and I'm not racist. I'm part white. I often think of myself as black, okay, because white people as a group are so, on the spectrum, are so racist in this country that you start thinking yourself that way. It's often why these people thought of themselves as brown, okay? No offense to anybody, but historically in America, It's not cool to be, historically that is speaking, to be white. We white boys, white boy Rick, okay? When Steven Seagal was in, it was one Nipsey Hussle movie, I believe it was, he was like, they were calling him white boy, and he was like, who you calling white boy? Because there's that stigma, okay? And it's like the main stigma. Because when you oppress people, people who are like on the fence, people who are racist, they take offense and they take very careful note of your race. And they're not like, I want to be white. As a result, they're not like that. And most white people, right? Yeah, white people who try to be Mexican, white people who try to be black, they take note of that too. Okay? So it is stupid to drive by in your white culture with your nose up in the air, thinking you're bad. Now keep in mind, my mother's white. She's, she can be nice. People have their differences with their families, what have you. A white lady just drove by right now. She looked like a nice person. I'm not racist. But the way they're coming at me demands a response. For example, if you're black and every day everyone's called you the N-word and they burn crosses and so on and so forth and police are playing stupid, okay, which is not quite what's happening here, but something similar to that is certainly happening. At what point do you finally start saying, look, you people aren't superior. What the fuck is wrong with you? At some point, when do you start telling them about themselves? And should YouTube censor you for it? Should they work in concert with the people who are doing this and suppress your fucking videos like a racist bitch, like a fucking coward, like a dweeb? That's some bitch ass shit. That's why corporation, when you think of someone in a corporation, you think of a bitch. And things like that are part of why. Some kind of pencil dick fucking nerd holding everyone down is not respectable. Now, I don't know the sizes of people's penises. I don't care. But you get what the fuck I'm saying. Point number L. One should never cheat anyone out of their rightful place. Israel and the West became the most disgraced places in history when they led the charge to cheat me. Now, they need to stop and to reduce the damage. And I'm not saying that to just bash them, though I'm very angry at them. That's not why I'm saying that. I put in my paper here, I say, will they finish their disgrace? Will they keep doing what they're doing? And I say right here, it says, they should publicly acknowledge this ASAP. Late in this case becomes very close to as bad as never. So we find often in my videos that, either I feel a certain way or maybe back in the day, they've taken some of my videos off unfairly on Facebook, on, TikTok, on YouTube. I made videos about that. Okay, I find so often that when something really, really needs to be said and it's a racial issue, that they've scrambled to prevent it. And there's various sexual agendas. There's agendas to maintain white supremacy in terms of breeding. Okay, obviously white people aren't superior, but you get what I mean by white supremacy. So there's abortions are illegal, if I'm not mistaken, still in red states, and they're legal in blue states. Why do you think that is? Because Republicans are disproportionately white. And red states are probably disproportionately white in general. Okay. We see that there's a bunch of crypto Jews in sex cults everywhere, right? Epstein, there's a bunch of CIA groups that are breeding people, and they're breeding people under the guise of fighting Islam and promoting Western culture, right? And it has to do with Israel's alliance with America and Europe, okay? And they're breeding a bunch of people from certain groups that are disproportionately Jewish and white and LGBT for the purpose of spreading America's culture. It is fucking sick. It is very immature. And keep in mind, after what I've been through, I should be allowed to say every racist word in the book, that anyone could think of, and go on and on about how much I hate them. Look at all that they've done to me. And keep in mind, I'm winning here. Just because I'm winning doesn't mean that I shouldn't be allowed to call them names. Because I'm winning in a way that's fair and just and right, that's noble and virtuous. Ver means man. Or I'm the top martial artist ever in these ways. But they're coming at me as a jealous bitch. Coming at me in every racist way you can imagine. Did I come at them that way? Is it black people, the black people take them as slaves and take them across the world and abuse them and come up with, a racist system? Or is it white people that did that? In the government, is it white people and Jews and LGBT people, when it comes to the corporations funding them, what have you? Are they the ones that disproportionately make the policy, or is it black people? Or brown people, or Native American? We got to look at it for what it is. When we refuse to assign guilt correctly, my goodness, that is a sick society. When you refuse to assign guilt correctly for the purpose of white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy, that is sick. And has everything to do with who should clash with who and why and when. And who's in the right, who's more in the right, who's less in the right. It has everything to do with these things. Okay, so let's go to point M real quickly. Many Satanists work together to try to fool me into thinking that in a state of being poisoned, that I should do what I wouldn't. I would never allow people to cheat me, which is by default cheating God. All who reproduce or who reproduced after 2015 or so will almost certainly go to hell. Okay? And if they don't obey God through me, they will certainly go to hell. God will not be outsmarted, and no plan can succeed against the Lord. People reap what they sow, and they reap it forever. Now, this is a little confusing here. If you obey God through me in a timely fashion, key word timely, right? Key phrase, timely fashion, then you will go to heaven even if you had a kid before that. But I can't express enough, resentment for people who are that selfish. They knew what they were doing. They knew there was a gay agenda in full force. They knew the evil was in full force. They just wanted to live their whitewashed life, their white life, and have a kid. It's very sad. I understand it more than you might think. I understand it probably better than everyone. But it's still wrong. This world is a very evil place. Look at how they're treating me. Look at how they treat the homeless. Look at how they're exploiting people sexually after financially sabotaging them. Now they're trying to turn gang members against me because they're minorities too. So they're the front line of defense. It's some proxy war, racist fucking shit. If you had any doubt before that they caused gangs to fight each other, have no doubt now. I assure you, and I've been saying this for years, that is the case. The white man didn't just bring the drugs, he brought the strife. And I'm not saying hate all white people, I'm not saying that. Okay? Anyone who doesn't obey God through me is hated by God. But look at things for what they are. There's a spectrum of guilt. People reap what they sow and they reap it forever. Proverbs 13:4, the teaching of the wise is a fountain of life, turning a person from the snares of death. Good judgment wins favor, but the way of the unfaithful leads to their destruction. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Point number N. There is right and there is wrong, and many societies had many different laws. For one to default with the law instead of what is right makes one a complete fool. Why would you default with the law or your culture? There are thousands of cultures around the world. In Nigeria alone, there's like 360-something languages or something. There's probably maybe 500 plus cultures easy, depending on how you define a culture. There are thousands of cultures all over the world. Now, when you look around the world, why would you say to yourself that your culture must be right? So you see how that's being a sheep? You're following the crowd. Now, what would you look for if you're going to change your culture? You would look for who's right. Right? Universal, pinpointed, moral precision. Who's precisely right? Not who's kind of right and who's like you, but who's precisely right. And some dickhead just came with some shining lights trying to mess up my eyes now. Doesn't fade me that much. If they pushed it too far, I might very well confront them about it, what have you. And that, believe it or not, is part of why they don't go further with it. We live in a society where they're going to persecute you for the government. Not only if they know that a tall, serious black guy confronts them, and again, I won't confront him in a way that's illegal, okay? I have a right to defend myself. I have a right to say, hey, what the hell are you doing? And figure out the situation, make that assessment, which goes back to what I've been saying. My situation is much more difficult than the vast majority of situations where people clash with each other. I have to make very sound calls. I can't just run up on somebody and say, hey, why are you fuming me, because people are going to play stupid. But I've been outmaneuvering every last one of them. The government sends them, they do what they're told, which means their spirit is one with the government, at least at that time. Really, overall it is, the spirit of rebellion. I outmaneuver every single person coming against me. One time there was some guy at the park, and he was clearly like he was a Jewish person. And he slams a bottle on the ground, he looks at me hard, okay? And after I was fumed, right, to try to cause me cognitive impairment, they do in a series of moves, right? First they fume me, make my brain and ears sensitive. Boom. I confronted him, right? I hop out the car. I said, what the fuck is up? That fool got in his car, drove away, fucking tail tucked. Didn't want a single problem. Didn't want no problems. Because he's a bitch and I'm the top martial artist. Because my spirit is greater than his. Because my soul is greater than his. Because I'm chosen and he is not. And will never be. These are the facts here. And trying to cripple the top martial artist and using the government acting like a bitch doesn't allow for fucking victory. Not even one-on-one, much less in a fucking group. These are the facts. Okay. So you see how the situation is complicated. And I'm right to do what I'm doing. The person indicated to me in a very clear way that they knew what they were doing, that they did that to offend me. Even if they weren't messing with your brain, if someone broke a bottle very loud in front of you, to mess with you and stared at you hard, you're right to say, hey, what the hell are you doing? But you gotta, think it through. Is that gonna cause a conflict? In that case, I didn't care if it caused a conflict because that person had already started the conflict and they caused me some brain pain, right? And I have 23 witnesses on record. So it's wise to say in this video, because in order for them to say, hey, you're a threat, okay, they have to address the fact that I have 23 witnesses on record to the psychological operation against me, this harassment, racist harassment campaign that I've reported already that they're playing stupid about. So why didn't you address that? When I say to any law enforcement listening, before they start acting like a bitch, why didn't you take my report seriously? Why did you chop it up to, oh, they're just, the fumes are probably just, vehicle fumes, when I said there's 23 witnesses on record to the fact that it's more than just vehicle fumes. There's a harassment campaign, there's more than just the fumes. Pretty straightforward. Reminds me of the parable of the tenants. How does it end in Matthew 21? Let's go to verse 35. The tenants seized his servants. They beat one, killed another, and stoned a third. Then he sent other servants to them more than the first time. Then the tenants treated them the same way. Now, are the tenants bad? When God sends his servants to them and says, hey, tell them to do the right thing. Are the guys who are beating them and killing them bad? No, they're some kind of bitch. They're like a little girl on her first period or something. There's some kind of fucking bitch. Last of all, he sent his son to them. They will respect my son, he said. Did he say, hey, my son will respect them? No. Because they're on some bitch-ass fucking shit. Okay? Not just the Jews, right? The Gentile, like everyone outside the divine order. So they will respect my son, he said. But when the tenants saw the son, they said to each other, this is the heir, come, let's kill him, and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. Now, when God sent his son, did God say to him, hey, if they have certain cultural values that you're going to clash with, maybe you shouldn't say this, that, and the other thing. No, he said, you go tell them to do God's work, right? Now, how does the story end for those of you who don't understand the bigger picture? Military units all throughout history didn't make moves on people because of the bigger picture all throughout history, for much less than going against God, much less. This is a very basic form of military and human intelligence. Are you dumb enough to fucking move against Christ? Fuming him, poisoning him, running a sop on him like a fucking bitch. Very basic, very clear-cut, very fundamental part of governance and warfare is understanding the right answer to that question. But when the tenants saw the son, they said to each other, this is the heir, come let's kill him, and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants? That is the million-dollar question. Notice Christ as a character in the story, which you all see as your ideal man. You wear crosses, tattoos, churches, you name it. YouTube videos, you name it. He didn't say, whoa, those guys are bad. They killed the heir. No. He said, what the fuck is going to happen to those fucking pussies? There's not a man among them. Because virtue means man. And what did even those idiots say? He will bring those wretches to a wretched end, they replied, and he will rent the vineyard to other tenants who will give him his share of the crop at harvest time. Jesus said to them, have you never read in the scriptures, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore, I want every Jew to write down verse 43. Therefore, I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people who will produce its fruit. Anyone who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces. Anyone on whom it falls will be crushed. Now, is this some racist Jew or racist white guy or token minority saying this? No. Because that'd be just a bitch running their fucking dick suck. It's God's words to his son. And it alludes to Psalm 118. For all the nations surrounded me, and in the name of the Lord I struck them down, the pinnacle of manning up. That's some psyop bitch shit. When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard Jesus' parables, they knew he was talking about them. They looked for a way to arrest him, but they were afraid of the crowd because the people held that he was a prophet. So on the most divine issue, they let fear get in the way of what they felt they should do. And they felt they should do some bitch-ass shit because they're on some bitch-ass shit. You see how this is a martial arts story. If you're a mere craftsman, mere nerd, mere cop, mere soldier, you don't understand it. It takes actually being a warrior of God to truly grasp the details. And you know them by their works. Seeing is believing. Seeing is not assimilating. Seeing is believing. As a martyr. Also see Galatians 3:28. Now let's look at Matthew 22, verse 34. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: Teacher, which is the greatest commandment of the law? Jesus replied, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and all the prophets hang on these two commands. John 14:15, if you love me, keep my commands. So it's saying, try to get your neighbors to obey God as well. Try to get your family, your friends, your neighbors, everyone else. Matthew 7:9, which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give them a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? Or, for example, if Jesus says, rally to me and all attractive females submit, would try to catfish him with gays and have females, unattractive females try to take advantage. If you then, though you are evil, though you are what? Though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So when females are giving themselves to wicked people instead of good people, it's because they're the children of the devil. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. A lot of people don't understand this part. It sums up the law and the prophets. Okay, that sums up the whole Bible. The Bible is about, stories and information that prophets are giving them. So it sums up the law and the prophets. It's telling you what they're saying. And that also includes a martial art code. Because we see in Judges 3 that God taught the Israelites warfare. Okay, so it sums up the martial art code. However, lots of people have heard this golden rule, this golden commandment, this teaching, but they don't live by it. That's part of why the prophets and the law, the prophets went on. And keep in mind, the Bible is written in a way that's confusing on purpose. Go to Luke 6:46. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? Okay. These people have heard him saying things that are that idea again and again, and they didn't even understand that they should do what Christ says. And they talk about how, Peter established the church. Well, if the story was literal, that makes sense because the church is a stumbling block to me. They don't do what I say, just like Peter failed. Psalm 45:11. Let the king be enthralled by your beauty. Honor him, for he is your Lord. Now, different versions say submit to him, bow to him, obey him. Okay, to honor God is to obey God through me. To honor me is to obey me. So Net Bible. Then the king will be attracted by your beauty. After all, he is your master. Submit to him. Proverbs 16:10. God's verdict is on the lips of a king. His mouth should not give an unfair judgment. So God's verdict is with me. So when it's saying honor him, for those of you who don't agree with the translation of obey him or submit to him, Okay, it's saying obey him because God's verdict is with him. Now it's the true king. It's not King, Charles or Prince Andrew. It's talking about me. Verse 12, kings detest wrongdoing, for a throne is established in righteousness. New Living Translation, justice. Consider the idea of romantic justice. Okay, so let's look at, really quickly, Proverbs 13, verses 14 and 15. The teaching of the wise is a fountain of life, turning a person from the snares of death. Good judgment wins favor, but the way of the unfaithful leads to their destruction. Verse 20, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm.